So apparently I'm the final person who stands between you and some delicious beers. That gives me quite some power actually, but I will try to use it in a good way to tell you something more about the interesting ReNEW project. My name is Birger Schrevens. I'm a project manager at IMEC, which is a research and technology organization in Belgium, but active worldwide. And so, just some facts about ReNEW. So it's a Horizon Europe project that started in September of 2022. I thought actually that we were the new kid in town, but apparently we are triplets. That's fine to see that how these three projects come about, and I look forward to following up Ploto and Crystal as well. It's a Horizon Europe project, as I said, so there's 24 partners involved, spanning 11 countries. So the project will take 36 months, and there's 4 living labs included. And the main goal actually is delivering climate neutral and climate resilient inland waterway transport services. Yeah, these are the partners involved. So as you see, it's a mix of research organizations combined with some companies, governmental bodies as well. So I think that's a good representation of the triple helix. The context of the project is, of course, I think it has been already mentioned in previous projects. We have the European Green Deal, we have the Paris Climate Agreement. So we are facing this incredible need to become more sustainable and to achieve climate neutrality. And on the other hand, of course, as climate change is occurring and is taking place. Ever stronger, we have to make sure that inland waterway transport can become more resilient, and that's where we hope to contribute with ReNEW as well. So the key priorities in the project. At first is about creating sustainable infrastructure adjustments. So of course, if we want to make inland waterway transport more resilient and more sustainable, then it will be important that the infrastructure itself becomes more sustainable. So that's the first important priority. Secondly. Wow, that's a motivation to quickly handle my my presentation. Okay. Secondly, of course, creating a more competitive, a more environmentally friendly vessel fleet is also a very important challenge within Europe. Plenty of barges still are very polluting. These assets they go along for, I think, about 30 years. So some of them are really still on these diesel motors. So if you can contribute to that, that's one part of a priority within ReNEW as well. Thirdly, digitization. So how can we, by using innovative data exchange and digital twin capabilities, how can we contribute to a more green and a more resilient inland waterway? That's a third priority. Then we also have, of course, the integration of IWT in multimodal transport chains, which is important, as of course IWT on itself needs to be connected to road, to rail, and that's an important aspect as well. And finally, securing the availability of skilled workers is also something we look into, be it perhaps more indirectly, because automation and digital solutions just can enable and can make it more attractive to work within the sector. And we explicitly thank the European Union and the European Commission for providing us this opportunity. It's of course within the fact that they consider this as very important, and we are happy to contribute to these goals, and that's what we want to achieve. So on the delivery part, I'm going to keep it high level at this point. I think it's just as with Crystal and Ploto, we are just at the beginning, which means that we cannot say a lot yet about results or goals that we already have achieved. We have to be humble. We are working hard on making the best of it, but at this point, we're still in the beginning of the project. So a first delivery, and actually this corresponds to the work packages within ReNEW. First important thing is to set up a decision support framework where we get a quantification method for resilience and sustainability. Of course, if we want to measure the impact of what we do, if we want to become more resilient and more sustainable, then we have to be able to set a baseline. How are things being measured right now? And then, of course, we have to measure that our solutions work. So that's something that is done. That type of methodological work is done within the first work package. Then secondly, the focus on infrastructure, as already mentioned before. We want to make sure that that for instance, specific assets within inland waterway transport become more resilient. And here we are looking at, for instance, at zero emission barges, also at, for instance, floating modular platform, also at automated barge infrastructure, so that actually we become future-proof and we become more resilient, more sustainable. Thirdly, that's the digitization aspect. We want to build a green resilient IWT data space and digital twin that basically provides data sharing capabilities and infrastructure monitoring, and that makes it able, based out of actual data, to simulate and to create these scenarios on which we can use as a decision support. So if things happen, if extreme events, for instance, occur, then maybe we can predict them by using historical data, by using actual data. And if we can predict them, then we can act upon them. And that's what we are aiming to do transversally over the different living labs that we will set up in the ReNEW project. And that's also the focus, of course, of the fourth living lab. And I'll say something more about these living labs in a minute. So that's where we put theory into practice. And I'll get back to that. And then finally, of course, there's this outreach program as well, because of course, if we learn things, if we are able to create innovations, then we have to make sure that these get adopted and that these become, that these are put into practice and are being adopted by the industry. So there are 4 living labs, which will be which are in the phase of being set up. The first one has a focus more on a city logistics hub. The second one is more about a smart waterway where the Douro River will be modeled, measured, and be simulated. Third living lab is more about a resilience mitigation app where route planning and visibility over the logistics supply chain will strengthen its attractiveness and its usefulness for the partners within the logistics supply chain. And a fourth living lab is about the autonomous zero emissions barge and the X barge, which has been mentioned already before. And those are the 4 living labs. Just a little bit more in detail, but not too much, because these living labs are still being in the phase to be set up, as I said. So the Ghent City Logistics Hub, here actually there are different use cases that have been defined, and one of them is actually to set up a smart terminal in the beautiful city of Ghent. By the way, I'm a bit biased. I live there. So it's at the River Scheldt here in Belgium, and we want to set up a terminal where there can be a transshipment construction goods. So basically, when a ship enters, we get an automated means of mooring, of unloading the cargo, and then being able to transship it conveniently up to the last mile logistics. We also want to set up a mobile command center that, in case of extreme events that occur, that control can be taken over remotely. There's also the ambition to set up a floating modular platform that provides power supply. So it would be a modular platform that contains a battery, and so in case of power outage, this could provide for necessary power supply for perhaps emergency response. And we're also looking into platooning capability. The Smart Douro River is a second living lab in Portugal, of course, and the Douro is a over 200 kilometers stretching from the Portuguese mountains out to the mouth of Porto, and here it's APDL who is responsible for the Douro River data, and who is connected to the environmental policy governmental bodies, and they want to get a better view actually on the river behavior. So within Porto and actually on the near the Douro River, floodings tend to happen more often in recent years, and they actually want to be better able to predict and to simulate what would happen. So if they can better model the river, what is happening, and have a good view on the actual situation, then by setting up a digital twin, they hope to get better view on, okay, in the future or in coming hours actually, if you take care of, you take into account weather predictions, that you actually can model where floodings will occur, so that mitigating actions can be taken. So basically a digital twin of the Douro River itself. Another use case would be about wastewater management. So where these boats with passengers for tourist services, for instance, they sail on the Douro River, but they have wastewater and they can discharge this at designated areas. But apparently sometimes it happens that they discharge this wastewater at undesignated areas, and basically putting smart contracts and a smart system into practice would actually automate the fining system for this. Also by, of course, measuring the wastewater in the tanks of the boats. But at least it's a promising means where technology enables proper behavior. Thirdly, there is this concept of a planning mitigation application to boost the modal shift. So that is Pantea, who is here as well. Pantea, and for shipping commercial party who is setting up this platform or this application basically between skippers and terminals, so that actually there is a better visibility over the logistics supply chain. So basically, it already contains a route planner, but a route planner can be optimized with actual risk information. So that the planning itself or the route can be optimized also based on perhaps water level or water velocity, and they're also looking into creating more planning visibility at the terminal level, so that, for instance, when congestions occur, that perhaps mitigating actions can be taken. So this is more on a software level, but using actual data to actually enhance this application and to make planning over inland waterway more robust and more accurate. And then finally, we have the X-barge concept. It has already been explained much more thoroughly by Antoon earlier today, so I'm not going to repeat that. But I think what is interesting for us is, of course, that we can. So there is a selected corridor going from Ghent to Duisburg, where we actually want to test this barge, and where we can look how this barge let's say, competes against normal vessels in terms of efficiency, in terms of resilience, and so on. And these are things that we can test within the ReNEW project. I think one of the aspects of this vessel is that it has a shallow draft. So this would make that even so at times when there is less, so when rivers have a drought, then these vessels still remain operational for a longer period of time. At least that's the premise, and that's what we would like to test. All right, so that's, I think, what it is for ReNEW, but how does this impact, or how is this relevant for the NAIADES 3 goals? I think it's relevant actually for all 4 of them, but very strongly for shifting freight to water. Actually, it is written into the proposal that we aim to contribute to at least 20% increase in modal shift. And it does so by creating this extra connectedness over the transport chains. Think of Living Lab 1, where we automate the transshipment from inland waterway to last mile logistics. But also, of course, if we make inland waterway more attractive by automation, then we are sure that this will improve or increase opportunities to realize this modal shift. Pathway to zero emission fleet, we consider this as important, maybe a little less high because it's not in every Living Lab as present, but definitely in Living Lab 4, where we have this the X-barge concept that we want to implement, then this definitely contributes to this zero emission fleet concept that we want to realize. The smart waterways goal, we consider this as very important as well, because the data exchange and the digital twin concept works transversally over the 4 living labs. And I think every living lab has a concept where this river information system is being used, or the actual information out of the RIS is being used to either to model or to have a more accurate route planning service in Living Lab 3. So overall, this is very important. And then finally, more attractive jobs. We don't have a very active goal towards that, or it's not explicitated within the ReNEW proposal, but we are convinced, of course, that if automation and if digital solutions are being used, then this will provide opportunities for creating more attractive jobs. Not the least to the fact that, of course, if you get remote-controlled vessels, then you are not then you can get a more normal job life. Because you don't have to sleep on your ship anymore. All right, so that's it for my part. So if there's any questions, don't ask too many, because then we don't have time to drink the beer. It gets warm, all right. So I'll just take a few questions then.
Who goes first? Anybody there? I mean, for the questions and not to the bar. Anybody? Patrick, Elvina. Yeah, you go first.
Not a question, but to you, but a simple remark. You thanked the European Union for their money, but you should thank the taxpayer for the money, because the European Union only acts as Santa Claus in this case. So the money is coming from the taxpayers. But noticing that, I have the feeling that there's quite some overlap between the different projects we heard of today. And that's in my case, the R&D doesn't stand for replicate and duplicate. So I think that's something that we must notice, that we must be very scarce with taxpayers' money. And the second remark I would like to make is that after hearing about European projects whole day now, you have to make sure that there also are important developments in the way of, on the field of inland water traffic or transport, that are not taking place within European projects, but there are other projects and normal commercial developments as well. It's good to notice that before we go to the drinking scene.
I can only agree with what you are saying. So we have to look for these synergies and complementarities, and I think that's what we have to do. But sometimes a solution in one context, an innovative solution in one context, has to be embedded in, for instance, a more complex context to prove its worth, and that's why sometimes you don't replicate exactly the same, but you add complexity to some context to learn and to improve technology. So that's why sometimes I think some technologies may come back in various projects, but it is something I totally agree that we have to guard this, that we add value and that we don't just replicate. So point taken.
Just one comment. I agree, and I'm not agree. I don't agree, sorry. Definitely, through the SWIP presentation, we see that we are sister project, definitely. We are targeting the same ambition, meaning reducing the carbon footprint, increasing the modal shift to make inland waterway transport more attractive. For me, it's a big opportunity that we are trying to do almost the same but in a different way, because together we will be able to leverage our results and to have a bigger impact on the inland waterway transport. So instead of competing, I think it won't be fruitful for us. Let's collaborate together, and I'm sure that the three projects, ReNEW, Plateau, and Crystal, will deliver amazing results in order to achieve or to contribute to this NIADES 3 map, and to make inland waterway transport more attractive for shippers and end users.
Cheers to that.
And about the taxpayers, we do write cards, the commission, to each individual taxpayer annually. So don't worry, if they thank us for the money, we write. But no, when it comes to safeguarding the taxpayers' money, be sure that double funding is the first thing we have in mind as a commission. So if you will see a solution that is applied in more than one project, it's for sure something that we are aware of, or even there is something that it's way different than it looks like at the first sign. This doesn't mean that in events like this, we might end up seeing something that is for the first time, but this together with the project, we know for sure that is never a double funding situation. So just be reassured on this.
Yes.
Okay. Submitted there is already to see whether there's no overlap, and we should not forget it's research. So some concepts will fail and other will be successful. So don't be afraid to invest in developing knowledge. That's my message here.
May I? Rafał Stanecki, DG Move, a bit of behind this project, so I also would like to comment. Two comments. The EU money or EU research money, it's 5% of the research budget in the EU. So we are not talking, it's not something which will change the direction the EU is moving. It's relatively small amount compared to the budgets in the member states. And there is another aspect, we have to cooperate people living in the member states. So for me, the aspect of this project is that so many countries work together, which is not the aspect of national programs very often. So this is one of the aspects also why we pay for these projects, to make Europe work together. Thank you.
So can I also because ReNEW comment on this, Crystal comment on this, I would also like on behalf of Ploto to just say, let's say two things. First of all, we have a finite set of tools, technologies at our disposal, so unavoidably there's going to be an overlap, let's say, among the tools that the three projects are using to achieve their targets. Secondly, of course, we are synergetic into this. I mean, that's how I view it. And thirdly, I mean, we should not forget that we have a diverse set of use cases. So even if we had used the exact same concept, technologies and tools, we apply to different conditions, to different use cases. So in the end, I think the result, the final result is different, and it all adds up to the bigger picture, you know, that we want to achieve through the call. So it's not really an overlap here, in any case. Sorry. Yeah, Nick?
You made a comparison with Santa Claus. Fair enough, but Santa Claus never asked me to write a deliverable of 89 pages. Yeah, but I can do it on 2 pages, not on 89. But I think the fact that we are getting together here, the three projects, avoids, in a way, overlapping as well. We can look at each other's progress, or non-progress, whatever you would like to call it, and then we can discuss and change the focus a bit. So this kind of getting together should help in avoiding this replication. Then indeed, you're absolutely right when you say there are different other funding programs, Interreg and what have you. There's a commercial market, but it's just a matter of time. I wanted to limit it was already a challenge to get 10 projects on board today. I know other projects like, I won't start naming them, but it's just a matter of time. And maybe in the navigation week will be, next time will be 2 weeks. Let's see what happens. This, yeah, that's, yes, they have to. Yeah, you can't do much more than that. Yeah, I'm fully aware. Oh, absolutely, I fully agree with that. We fully agree.